everyone, and welcome back to Confessions of a Slow Cooker. I'm Ashlyne Blue, and I'm delighted to have my guest today finally be on the podcast. I like everyone, obviously, who comes on the podcast. Don't get me wrong, but this woman was literally my guide when it came to IVF. Molly Dodge was the one I called when we finally came around to the hard truth that we were going to have to go the IVF route to become parents. She was so honest with her journey in real time, posting about the ups and the downs on her Instagram account, and I religiously followed all of those. I called her, and she shared with me the clinic she used, the doctor she used, the play-by-play of everything she went through, and it was a lot, and she'll tell you about it. And then she checked on me during my personal process, gave me context to what was happening in real time on my end. It was just everything that I needed. Oh, and before I let Molly share her journey, I want to also mention that Molly and her husband, Barclay, are the owners of the only one-star Michelin restaurant, BOSQ, in Aspen. Barclay is a chef, and the food, my husband's a foodie, and it's his favorite. So if you're ever, and I like it too, sorry. If you're ever in Aspen, Colorado, you must check it out. And BOSQ is spelled BOSQ.
Oh,
okay.
Sweet.
Molly, I have talked enough. Where would you like to start?
I guess I'll start at the beginning. My journey to motherhood was long. And, I come from generations of very fertile women. My mom is one of 8.
Whoa.
My dad is one of 4. All of my aunts have many children. My grandmother's sisters, one has 9, one has 8, one has 4, one has 6. I never thought that becoming a mother would be difficult at all. I never really thought about it.
Yeah.
And when the time came to start talking about it, I was 34, I believe. My husband and I got married, and, we went to go see doctors, just our, normal OBs. And they were like, You're young, you're healthy, let's give it a go. So we started the process of trying naturally. And, it's funny when you think about sex ed in grade school and, all that they tell you. But I learned about ovulation in my 30s.
Right.
I had no idea what my body was doing in between my period. And, I didn't know what it was there for. I didn't even know the word. And so I'm kind of learning as I'm trying to get pregnant about these very important things that your body is going through. And, so I started downloading the apps and tracking my temperature every single morning, which who knows what that's supposed to mean. So I kept going to the doctor every 6 months, and she's like, let's keep trying, and that went on for 2 years. And my husband is 13 years older than me. So, they say it doesn't matter his age, but I'm like, I don't want him to be right, whatever. So we kept trying and trying and trying. And month after month, it was, I wasn't even a day late. I was so regular on my period. And so we kept trying, and then it didn't, it was not working. And so we tried the Clomid, we tried positions, we tried anything and everything that people were saying. We're like, we're going to try it this month. And it was just month after month, it was just a big disappointment, and it was crushing me. It was crushing me. And I didn't even think of an IVF route because, again, I came from a family full of women that were, having zero issues. Nobody in my family had issues. None of my aunts, anybody. And people around me weren't having issues. I had friends that were getting pregnant from looking at each other. So literally.
Which is kind of what they sort of teach in sex ed.
Totally.
Right?
Totally.
That's like the extent. It's like, don't do this.
Exactly. So, I was out one night with some girlfriends, and a girl had stopped by the table, and I didn't know her very well, but we were kind of talking about me getting pregnant, and she looked at me in the eyes and she said, call CCRM. I'm like, what is that? And she's like, it's a fertility clinic in Denver. It's the top one in the nation. and it's in your backyard. Just make an appointment. I'm like, I don't need IVF. Like, you're crazy. I don't need it. And then I remember going home and just her message to me was just, it's not going to hurt. Make an appointment, have a conversation. Who knows?
And for those of you who don't know what CCRM stands for, it's Colorado Center for Reproductive Medicine, which is a mouthful.
Yeah. And they have campuses all over the country, but they are considered one of the top in the nation. And people come from all over the world. So it was nice that it was just 3 hours away. But I called them pretty much the next day and set up an appointment, which was, of course, a few months out. And we ended up going down and having a consultation. We met with a brilliant doctor who has helped me and many of my friends get pregnant, including you. And I kind of got lucky with her. They put you with whoever, and she was amazing, and she herself had been through IVF multiple times. She was a female, and I'm all about that. So it was a perfect match, and we just started talking, and her first test that she really wanted to do for me was an HSG test, which is where they take blue dye and they shoot it up your uterus and they see if your fallopian tubes are open.
Was yours painful?
Mine was actually okay, but I have heard
mine was so
horror
painful.
Horror stories of it.
Oh, God.
And I actually told her, I was like, oh, I've already done that test. Another one of my friends had mentioned it months before. And what I had heard about it was the likelihood of you getting pregnant right after this test is very high because it it can flush out your fallopian tubes.
Right.
So I was so excited to do this test and then try again the next month. And of course, that didn't take.
No. Yeah.
So that didn't work. But I had the result from it. And I said to her, oh, yeah, my doctor in Aspen said all is well. She said one side looks a little bit blocked, but all you need is one side. So Dr. Lauren Earhart did not like that answer. She's like, I want to look at it myself. So I sent over the results and she said, your tubes are blocked. They're completely blocked. You should not be trying to get pregnant because the chances of an ectopic pregnancy are very high. And that was a shock to me.
And do you know how she knew that? Like, I mean, obviously she's trained and has education, but like.
Totally. In the images, she could clearly see that they were not draining, I guess is the word to say. But I guess my doctor here missed that.
Didn't see that part.
We'll just say missed that.
Yeah.
So, from that point on, I'll never forget, she called me because I had already left the clinic and gone back and I was at work, and she called me and she said, your tubes are completely blocked and we're going to have to go IVF route. She said, you will not get pregnant on your own, which was the biggest hit to the heart. Like, I didn't really know what that meant too. Like,
But to have that be taken away, like the only route?
Totally. The only route is going to be this. And we also suggest you getting your fallopian tubes removed.
Gosh. I remember you telling me that. And I was like,
it was, I was like, wait, I didn't even, again, I didn't even know what a uterus looked like. I didn't understand what does that mean my fallopian tubes are removed. Like nothing made sense because nothing has ever been discussed, So anyway.
Hence this podcast.
Thank you, Ashlyn. Completely. So anyway, I ended up, that was January 1st. I remember my appointment was January 1st of 2018. So then the next month I scheduled a surgery with my doctor here to remove one of my fallopian tubes, maybe the other. The reason behind all of this is I have stage 4 endometriosis.
Oh, right. Yes.
Which I can back up for that too. My whole period life, I've had very consistent periods. They were not a big deal. They came every 28 days. But when I was very little, I was probably 15, I want to say. I was stuck on the couch for days with abdominal pain.
Huh.
And it was kind of right around the time when I was starting my period for the first time. I had already started it, but I remember having this one week where I was on my parents' couch in the room, like dying of pain, and nobody knew what to do for me. And
you have no sisters, correct?
I have no sisters. I have a very open mother who was a nurse.
Yeah.
You know, my dad's a doctor. My dad's a doctor. He is
so cute too.
He's so cute. But this was not like their realm. So, and I don't know why, but the doctors didn't really have a reason for why I was having this abdominal pain. And they never really did a extensive research. I never had an x-ray. I didn't do ultrasounds. Nothing was really done about it. But, you know, time goes by, and eventually I had another episode where I had extremely painful pre-period time. And I go into a doctor, and they decide that it's a cyst that had burst.
Okay.
So this is when I'm in my teens. I go through my 20s, and I sometimes have painful periods, but not terrible. In my 30s, I start having severe pain with every single period.
Oh, God.
And in my head, I'm thinking, oh, I'm just having these cysts that are bursting. No big deal. Nobody made a big deal about it in my teens. I'm not going to make a big deal out of it. It's just painful. I'm going to take some Advil. I'm not going to drink alcohol. I'm going to be careful with my sugar intake. All this
you're
stuff.
doing the things that you think are manageable.
I'm doing the things that I have researched on my own. And turns out I have a girlfriend who I was working with at the time, and she's like, oh, my endometriosis. And I'm like, what is that? She starts explaining it to me. She explains it to me, and I'm like, a light bulb goes off, and I'm like, I think I have that. How do I find out? And she's like, well, the only way to find out is through surgery. So I just diagnosed myself, and I start telling people I have endometriosis. And at the time, no one's talking about it. This was not that long ago. And, you know, I start treating myself with the things that they say online, you know, each month. But anyway, turns out one of the huge side effects of endometriosis is infertility. And again, once my fallopian tube story comes to head, I am like, okay, it's this endometriosis. And it was all over my fallopian tubes. I have it on my appendix. I have it on my bladder. I have it on my ovaries. I have it all over my abdomen.
I don't think I realized it could be elsewhere.
It could be elsewhere.
Oh.
And so, you know, I would have these crazy pains, and, you know, thinking that it was my appendix or whatever. And it's, you know, which is everywhere. So, yeah. So that was my story with endometriosis. So I still have it.
Double whammy.
Yeah, I think I'll probably always have it. And, you know, they can do these surgeries where they go in, they scrape it out, but it comes back. And pregnancy has helped actually with it. My periods are a lot less painful. So anyway, back to
fallopian tubes being removed.
That was why. So they were kind of damaged. So then I had the surgery to remove those, and then we went ahead and did a retrieval. So like now we're into March, I would say. We had the retrieval.
Oh, that's a pretty quick turnaround.
It was quick, yeah. My surgery for the fallopian tubes, it was actually a lot worse than I thought. Just the recovery was very painful. But
and then let's start with shots. You know,
yes. Now let's put some hormones back in there. So we ended up doing a retrieval, and which was, you know, you hear horror stories again about the drugs, and they can ruin a marriage, and you're going to be crazy. You know, you hear all these horrible things, and I just was trying to really block that out and just say, I'm going to do everything in my power to keep this as positive as possible. And if I get affected by them, you know, my husband's on board. He knows it's not him if I'm screaming at him one day. And so anyway, so we did the retrieval, and I actually had a very successful retrieval. I was 36 at the time, and they got 28 eggs. which
I remember hearing your number.
huge.
And that was like my goal. And I was like, probably not smart to have that be my goal.
No, I mean, it was very high. And right before the surgery, when Dr. Lauren was getting ready to, go in, she said, your one ovary is behind your uterus. So I don't think I'm going to be able to get the eggs from that. And I remember looking her in the eye and saying, you are going to do everything in your power to get those beautiful eggs that I just grew.
And can I say one thing about Dr. Earhart?
Yes.
Something that really, you told me in advance, and I think this is a compliment. So if she ever hears this, I don't think that she will be disagreeing with it. Yeah. One of the things you told me is she is not fluffy. That's not the word you use, but she does not coddle. She is not going to make you feel better about something if it's not true. And you presented it in a way that was like, this is who I think you should see, obviously. Totally. So I was like, okay. And you were so right. She was just...
She's to the point.
When we found out that there was nothing in Marcus's, I called you on the way home from this, I think. I was devastated.
Yeah.
I knew if she said it this way, this is what's going on. And like, we're going to have to handle it and deal with it. Mm-hmm. And that was the most helpful advice, I think, because, I feel like we kind of always want someone to have a good bedside manner.
Totally.
And that's fine. But there is something to be said about like really, really hardcore
honesty
truth when you're in this place, because the last thing you want to wonder when you're already drugged up and sticking yourself every day and is wondering, how accurate is this? Like, how much should I like put my my hope into this, or is she trying to make me feel at all better? That was completely off the table because you had mentioned her style, and that was so comforting. Even when I got bad news, it was still comforting.
Totally.
So thank you for saying that. And word to the wise, it's not the worst thing ever to have someone like that on your side.
Right. And her bedside manner is amazing.
Yes.
It's just, she's to the point. Mm-hmm. She's not going to get your hopes up for something, and then break the news later. Yeah, no, she's incredible.
She's so great.
She's incredible. Yeah. So
anyway, continue.
So I looked at her in the eyes and I was like, the anesthesia was hitting and I'm like, get every egg.
Get those.
I was like, no matter what you have to do, get those eggs. So going into it, I was a little bit like, shit, I know they counted this many on this side and this many on this side. And, let's hope for the best. So anyway, it's like a very quick process. So half an hour later, I wake up and she's like, we got them. And so it was amazing, but they did have to go like through my uterus to get, it was crazy. So anyway, I woke up.
She's really, really good at her job.
She's amazing. So we had 28, which then they, days later they fertilize or they don't. Then I think it went down to like 18 and then 12 and then 10.
And that's when you start getting nervous.
Totally. And,
I started out with 17. So I was like, oh, no.
No, which is also an amazing number. So we ended up sending off 10 to get tested, the genetics testings. And they came back and we had 8 healthy embryos.
Amazing.
Yeah. And I remember she called me at work and she's like, I know you don't want to know, the sex of them, but she's like, you have 7 girls and 1 boy. So I was like, we're having girls. So,
and I was the opposite.
Yeah. You were all boys.
All 4 boys.
Yeah. So that was an amazing outcome. We were very happy with that.
Can I just say also her girls, which she'll tell you about, are just the most gorgeous things, which is not surprising if you're watching. Like, that's not surprising at all.
But no, thank you.
I digress.
They're very sweet. They're very awesome. So then it was time to go on another drug called Lupron, which was to calm my endometriosis completely before they did the transfer, because they felt like if we can just get this at bay, then we think we'll have a more successful
I was transfer. Lupron too, not for that reason, but I'm sure it has more than one.
It does.
Use.
It's basically inflammation. It helps with inflammation. And it's, however, it strips your body of estrogen and you go into menopause, basically. You're having night sweats, even during the day, you're having hot flashes. You're very dry. It was a weird, and I was on it, I think, for 2 months. So it was a weird shot to be on. But anyway, that now takes us to like June-ish. Yeah, we start to prep up for the transfer. I went into it a little cocky, I have to say. I definitely was like, we've got this, we've got all these embryos. We're going to, this is happening. So day of the transfer, I was laying on the table and the embryologist came in and said, your first embryo did not make the thaw, which I remember I went back into my notes actually later on. It's like a 1% chance of that happening. So it just didn't make it. And that was like our strongest embryo. So now I'm like, wait a minute, that was our best
shot. Yeah.
Best shot. So they just, thankfully I had other embryos. They went to the next one. They put that in and you get this lovely 9-day wait, where you're supposed to just live your life and, all that good stuff. And
never mind if people don't know you're going through this.
Totally. Totally.
You were really honest.
Very.
And upfront, but a lot of people, I don't know about this one because I didn't know you that well. Yeah. I hadn't moved to Aspen at this point in June.
Oh, yeah.
I moved in September, but I was visiting and, but that 9 days felt
it's brutal.
Like 40.
It's brutal.
It felt like, and you don't really want to talk about it.
No.
Like, I'm afraid
and
to
every
hope.
little thing, you're like, my boobs hurt, or like you have a little spotting, and then it's just such a mind game that entire time, and you're like,
but also relax and don't do anything crazy.
Totally. Eat well, sleep, Yeah. So after the 9 days, I wake up and I remember just being so like anxious and I've got this and this is it, here we go. They're going to call us. You have to go get a blood test. I got the blood test. I came home. And I was just kind of sitting around waiting for nurse Amy, or Taylor, I guess was at the time, to call me and tell me the exciting news, so I was sitting around. Barclay's like, well, I'm going to go to work, call me when you find out. Can't wait, and
oh God,
I'll never forget.
Together?
No, because I didn't know when they were going to call.
Yeah.
So he had run to the restaurant and he was coming back. I don't know. But anyway, my phone rings and I'm so excited again. My heart's pounding. And the second Taylor said Molly, I fell to my knees. I fell to my knees and just was sobbing. I was sobbing. I just felt so defeated but I've been doing everything right. I'm sure I did the medicine right. And, everything's going through your head and you start the whole, what did I do wrong game, and I felt very, very defeated. It was like the feeling of when they first told me that I couldn't do this on my own. It was that feeling again.
Well, and that compounds it.
Totally.
Like, this is my only avenue. And yes, you have more embryos, but
absolutely
still knowing there's no,
what if my body can't carry? Totally. Or the endo is just taking over and, killing the embryos, whatever. I just remember calling Barclay and just screaming like, it didn't work. It's not going to work. And I mean, he got home in 1.2 seconds and, we were so sad. And, all my girlfriends rallied. They came over that night. They cooked dinner. They brought flowers, champagne, and just were like holding me up. And I'll never forget those 10 girlfriends of mine just showing up. And it was so huge. And they let me cry and they cried with me. And all of them, most of them had kids, so it was very hard for them to really understand what was going on. So that was that transfer.
But they still showed up.
They showed up. Totally. Yeah. They were incredible. The whole time they were just very supportive and all of that. And I remember some of their advice was, why don't you take a break and just give your body some time? And then others were like, just keep going. You're in it, and everybody's, opinions were in my head. And the next day I remember waking up and being like, let's go. LFG. Like,
you can cuss
I'm
on
not
this.
taking, I'm not taking a break. I'm not like, I am in it. I woke up like 180 from the night before and was just like, we got to keep going. Like, let's go. The Lupron was still in my system, which was another huge thing. Dr. Lauren was like, you know, we might have to do another round of that. I'm like, like, if there's like an ounce of it in there, let's keep going. So at that point, I remember being like, okay, you are going to take these next few weeks before I started the next round, and take care of yourself. Like, you're going to go get massages. You're going to do facials. You're going to do yoga. You're going to do all the things that you need to do for me and no one else. And the next day also they say, okay, stop all your drugs. So you're all hyped up on all these drugs. And the next day I had the biggest crash of my life. I was screaming. I was like, I felt so weird in my own body.
Oh, actually, I remember doing this. I was so mean to my parents.
Yes. And Barclay called me and he was telling me something about the restaurant that had gone wrong. And I remember saying, I don't give a you know, I was like, never call me again with your issues. Like, I was next level. But that was like, it only lasted a day. And then like things started to get back on board. But I wish they would have warned me about that because, you know, you're taking so many drugs and so many hormones and then to just cold turkey.
Yeah.
Cut them. It was crazy.
Well, hopefully this will serve as a warning for someone else.
Yes. So if I always tell people
just like cocoon,
totally
quarantine yourself, you know,
lock yourself in a room by yourself. Yeah. Padded room. Totally. So yeah. So that next day after that drop, I woke up and I was just like, all right, we're doing this. And I remember calling True Nature and asking for a massage, which is in Carbondale. It's my little sanctuary to this day. My kids are connected there. Like, it's where we go when we need to just ground ourselves. So I called them and I was like, I need a massage for tomorrow. They're like, great. You know, they set me up. And I remember hanging up the phone and looking up to the sky and saying, I don't know why I did this, but I said out loud, put somebody in my life that needs to be in my life right now. It was weird. So I show up at True Nature the next day and they bring me to my room. I hadn't met my masseuse yet. But she walks in and she looks at me and she's like, I know you're here for a massage, but do you care if I read you? And I was like, what does that mean?
Yeah.
And she was like, she's like, feel free to say no, but I see some things going on and I'm an energy healer. And, you know, I don't know the words she said, but I was like, yeah, go for it. So she started just kind of scanning my body and telling me what she saw. And when she got to my she was like, you're not eating enough protein. You don't drink enough water. You're sitting incorrectly, your posture. She was kind of going on. And then she got to my abdomen and she's like, there's something going on here, huh? And I just burst into tears.
Yeah.
And I told her what was going on. And she's like, there's a lot of energy being held right there that doesn't need to be there. And she's like, would you mind if I did something other than a massage today? And I'm like, sign me up.
Yeah.
I'm like all about all of this stuff. So she ended up doing 3 different sessions where she was just working on my abdomen and getting rid of, you know, built up anger and sadness and stuff from a million years ago. And doing this whole process that was to prepare my abdomen to welcome an embryo and a baby. So that's what we did for the next 2 weeks before my next transfer. We just worked on my abdomen. And by the last session, I was floating. I couldn't walk for 20 minutes after the session. I was floating. And I just felt like we had just prepared my womb properly for a baby. Yeah. So I credit Lori big time for getting pregnant. So, you know, time goes on and I end up doing another transfer. And this time I asked Dr. Lord if I could put in 2 embryos. And she's like,
which
well,
they don't really do anymore.
They don't.
Right?
And now I'm 37 or 38. And she said, because the first transfer didn't take, I won't fight you. Because the first time I was like,
you had
can we
more-
put in 2?
Yeah.
I was like, can we put in 2? And she said, I suggest us not doing that. You know, you're healthy otherwise. I don't want to risk this. So we put in 1. It didn't take. So the second time we put in 2, waited the 9 days, and I woke up sick. I woke up sick on the 9th day. I was like, I couldn't get out of bed. I was so anxious. I think my body was just taking over, and just my anxiety was horrible that day.
Yeah.
And I was like, I can't wait for another phone call. So I actually went to the bathroom, pulled out a pregnancy test, and took it on my own. And it said pregnant. I was screaming. Barclay was still sleeping. I had to do it on my own. And I was like, I remember just like shaking and pacing. And we had a puppy at the time. And he was like, what is going on? And I mean, it was just this, I had never seen pregnant. I had never, in the 3 years now that we had been trying, I had never seen it. And it was like, holy shit. My body at this moment is pregnant. And I went in and I woke up Barclay, and, you know, he was like in a daze from waking up, and I was like, it worked. And he's like, what? And so it was just the most exciting thing in the world to feel that. It was incredible. And, you know, then I went and did the blood, and now it was Nurse Amy who called me, and I was like, I already know, because they suggest you not.
I followed the rules. Test. I did not. I took one.
I did the
right
first
after,
time,
though.
I did the first time, and I was like, you know, they say not to because it could be a false negative or a false positive. So they really suggest the blood. But I just couldn't handle somebody else telling me that I wasn't pregnant. So I was like, I need to take this into my own hands. I'm a control freak. So yeah, that happened, and it was amazing. But then there's still so much uncertainty from there. You have to go in every other day, and the numbers have to triple. They have to double, you know, all these things have to happen. And then you have to get through the first trimester, you know, so there's a lot
it's
going
the
on
end of
that,
one journey, but the beginning of another.
Absolutely.
And it's worth celebrating for sure. But yeah, especially if you're like after you've gone through all of this, it's like, I don't want to move too much. I don't want to get cocky, like you said earlier, and think my body's got this in the bag.
Totally.
There have been, and I've spoken to some people recently, and this is not to scare anybody. It's just more of like a reality check that they did get pregnant, and it did not take after a couple days. It went the other way. It was a miscarriage, which I don't feel like is all that common, but maybe it is, and I just don't hear about it. Or the
chemical pregnancies happen. Right. There's so many different variables.
I know how our stories end, but like I distinctly remember feeling very cautiously hopeful at this point. I was just so proud that my body could do it. That was like my main thing, because I was like, great, if it happened once, it can happen again. Of course, we were out of embryos, but I was willing to go back through this whole thing if that were the case. But yeah, it's fertility is already hard. It's so much harder when you have had so many like bad things happen along the way, because it's stuck in like the back of your head that whole time. I don't know if it like dissipated for you, but it really didn't for me.
No, it doesn't. Looking back on things that I did differently the second time, you know, at this time, which I know they've changed the protocol, and I really, really wish they didn't. But at the time, they suggested like 48 hours of no movement after the transfer. And the first time, I remember them telling me that, and I'm like, yeah, you know, I have to get back to my life, but I'll take it seriously somewhat. So I remember laying down and trying to stay flat, but then I was like, I got to vacuum. So I was up vacuuming, and I was up like, I can't just sit still. I'm not the person to sit still. Yeah. And so I remember doing that. And then when it didn't take, I was like, is it because I vacuumed? You know, I was like, is it because I didn't listen to the 48-hour rule? And, you know, so the second time,
I don't think I got that 48-hour rule.
You didn't, because they changed it. They changed it between my two kids. And I remember the second time my mom flew out, because my Barclay had to get back to work, but my mom flew out, and literally I laid flat for 2 full days. She was like, you're getting up to pee and that's it, you know? And so I laid there and she did everything for me. And it's my biggest piece of advice for people going through this is it's not so much about the 48 hour. It's just like giving your body the time and giving yourself that time to do whatever you need to do without moving, you know, just almost like going
you want it to stick.
Almost go, yeah, you want it to stick and almost go into like a 48 hour, like meditative state where you're just, you know, I use that time. And at this point now I'm meditating every single day. I'm doing chakra cleanses every day. I'm like doing all the things, the hooky dooky things that I've heard from Lori. You know, she's like, you need to get into meditating. So I did. And for 9 months straight, I built this little altar thing right here. And I would go there every single day and I would light candles and I would talk to my baby to be and the spirit, you know, I would just envision myself holding a baby. And I think my brain did a lot of this too. I think my state of being, you know, helped me get these babies.
Well, and regardless of if you like believe whatever, like regardless, everybody outside of any spirituality, like if you put your energy towards something, that's where your energy goes. Like that is just duh. So, however, for me, I wrote to, he was Little Blue at the time. I wrote to, eventually I knew it was only going to be a boy, but I wrote to, and I still write to him in the same journal. And it's so funny. It evolved from the day before my first workup, before I knew the trouble that lay ahead, more trouble. And then now, but that's how my brain centers. I can talk and whatever, but like, I think the takeaway here is figure out the way for you to get, like you said earlier, grounded and something that's not like your mind's going other places. Some way for your brain to like channel what you're thinking. How can you envision it? What would you say to it? And if that's writing, if that's talking it out loud, if that's meditating, like it, if nothing else, it'll make you less nutty at this time.
Totally. No,
and that
totally.
is key.
Totally. Putting your energy towards that for sure. For sure. Absolutely. I continued the meditating. I continued talking to the baby and, you know, my pregnancy with her it was pretty awesome. You know, I didn't feel terrible. Second pregnancy, different story. But, you know, I loved being pregnant. Any sickness.
I remember watching you walk around and I was thinking about this actually this morning. I remember you walking, by the way, the fact that you're not wearing a hat is crazy.
I know. I almost put it on because it's my security blanket.
Yeah. And you look so cute in their hats. And you had like a sweet little sundress. Your bump was going, it was bumping. And you were walking up near the St. Regis. And this is creepy. But I just saw you and I was like, I want to be her because I knew you went through IVF, even though we hadn't talked about it yet. And it was just like, you looked carefree. I remember thinking that. Yeah. And I could tell you liked being pregnant. It was like a source of pride. Yes. And since I didn't know all the things that you had gone through, I didn't have all the context. But I just remember seeing you and being like, okay, I'm going to do that one day, maybe, hopefully. I don't know.
Yes, you are. No, it was, I mean, I had a good pregnancy. I really did. And I felt good. And, you know, at the end, of course, I was miserable. Yeah. But I was trying to really embrace it all. And it was exactly what I knew I always wanted. And so I went through it just so happy, you know, and feeling good. And then the delivery came and, you know, that was another story, but the feeling of seeing your dream literally before you laying on your belly, there's nothing like it. And I feel so, so blessed to have gone through it and to experience motherhood. It's what I feel like I was meant to do, even every day when I want to wring their heads and pound my head against the wall. I'm like, this is what I wanted. Remember why. But I just, I love being a mom. And so the second time, it took a long time to want to go there again, though.
Go through that.
Go through that again. My kids are 3.5 years apart. And, I just finally was like, and I breastfed for a very long time with Lennon. And she literally stopped breastfeeding the day I was starting meds for Mia.
Wow.
Yeah. And it wasn't like, it was just a comfort thing for her and me. But, I wasn't ready to give up that part of Lennon and my relationship.
Bond
yet. So it took a while. But yeah, with Mia, I remember calling Dr. Hart and being like, I'm ready. Let's do this. And she's like, okay, let's talk about the drugs. And I'm like, I don't want the drugs. I don't need the drugs. She's like, and I was like, I think I can mentally do this without the drugs.
I remember you posting about this part, me being like,
yeah,
okay.
I know. She was like, really? And I was like, can we just go off my natural cycle? I know when I'm ovulating. I know, can we just try it? And she's like, sure. Because you have multiple embryos left, I'm okay with this. Normally I wouldn't be. And because my endo felt like it had calmed down too. So we did another transfer with, I think I did like one shot, and I think it was like the trigger shot, or I don't remember. But, and then again, I went back into my meditative state.
You didn't do any estrogen or progesterone?
I don't think so. I mean, I did progesterone. You have to do progesterone.
I was going to say, I feel like that's like the helpful sticky substance.
Yeah, I definitely had to do for the 12 weeks after and all that. I had to do all that. But, yeah. So
wow,
that was.
And you got Mia.
And I got Mia.
You had a complication though. You had to go to Denver,
so
right?
I had placenta previa with her, which they found out pretty early on. They're like, hopefully you're growing, your uterus or your placenta will move, but it never did. So I ended up having to have a C-section in Denver, where I was internally bleeding. I was open for a long time. Mia had to be in the NICU just for a little bit because she had fluid in her lungs. It was a crazy delivery, but I got to experience a C-section too. So I got to have both. So I can relate to most people on both sides of the delivery conversation. But yeah, and that's Mia came into the world.
And she's spicy.
She's spicy. She is our wild child.
And she's your
amazing.
Twin.
And she's my twin.
Yeah. Yep. So that tracks.
Yeah. It tracks. Yeah. But it was an amazing outcome for all of the craziness that went on. And
I don't know. So this podcast came from me having my own experience. I don't know what it would have looked like had I not talked to you when I did. Like I trace things back, and it's just like this. I'm sure I could have talked to someone else. I'm sure I could have Googled. But I feel like you distilled everything down for me in such a way that I was like, and Marcus trusted you too. So when I said, hey, I just got off the phone with Molly, he was like he didn't want to go down that route because he thought, like everyone else thinks, you're just being a little too, not eager. He wanted to be a parent too, but he thought, give it some more time. You're not that old yet, blah, blah, blah. And so, but he was willing to go down that route once we tried 2 IUIs and whatnot. But I don't wonder, let's go back and have another adventure in another direction. But I just wonder, would I have just, because I did the whole ABCs of IVF series, and in the first part of it, it was the reason I'm doing this is because I even Googled my clinic, CCRM, and I'm still confused by it. Not because they did anything wrong, but because it is clinical, and also it doesn't really humanize the process, because how can you? You can't tell somebody what issues they're going to run into and then what they'll do next or whatever. They just have to do the bare minimum of this is kind of how this goes. And I probably would have been like overwhelmed enough to put it on the back burner. If I hadn't had someone humanize it for me, which is what you did.
Yeah.
And so I just am so thankful for you in all ways. You've been great to my family, in a plethora of ways outside of the fertility realm. But personally, you were just so much for me. So,
well, I
thank
kind
you,
of made,
thank you.
yeah, no, thank you for saying that. I just, I can't imagine going through this process alone. And I know so many women that do that for their own reasons. And that is their journey. Totally respect that. I needed an outlet, and so I started talking about it heavily on my social media. And so nothing was a secret. Nothing was a secret. When I didn't take it wasn't a secret. When it, everything, my surgery, my fallopian tubes, I needed that outlet, and I also got so much support and people coming to me saying, I'm going through that too. And I'm like, you are? Like, why is nobody talking about this? This was only 8 years ago. And IVF was never talked about. It's so funny because now when IVF is on the Today Show or on whatever, people like reach out to me. Oh, did you see this? It's like, I don't know if I was the first person talking about it in my circle or what, but it was not talked about. And I thank God I had another girl in the Valley who was also going to Dr. Earhart, and she had the exact same thing as me. And so she reached out to me and she's like, let's do this together. And without her, I don't know if I could have done it. So because of that, I just was like, I want to be there for anyone who is going through this in any way that I can be. Yeah. Call me when you're crying. Call me if you need help with the shots. Like I want to be that person for people because you needed that person. It's unimaginable to go through it alone. And so, I have so many people that have contacted me. Can I put you in contact with this girlfriend? She's very.
I put you in contact with my friend.
Yeah, you did. Yeah.
She's into us as well.
Yeah. So I just feel like the more we talk about it and normalize it, and the better. We're all better off talking about it and sharing our situations. And I'm very sensitive when I talk to other people, which is why I was a little bit nervous going on here because every situation is so different. And I don't want to say anything that's going to offend anybody, or I'm like very sensitive to this subject. So,
but your experience is your experience, and
everybody has their own.
And I feel like a lot of people don't talk about stuff because they're afraid of offending. When I feel like the opposite is true. Yeah. When you tell your story, it actually opens up like I don't know, Red Rover is what popped into my head. Yeah. Like, come over. I would love for you to talk about mine. And all the people I've had on thus far and all the ones that are coming out soon because they've already been taped. What I can say about everybody is that it's just a little bit different than somebody else I know. But if you can find yourself in anybody's story, you feel less alone in that one little instance. So say somebody has endo. Well, okay, they don't have maybe all the rest of the stuff that you're talking about. Right. But now they've heard a little bit about something they've gone through and maybe they have a tip or just know that they're not the only one.
The amount of girls that I've not diagnosed with but brought this to their attention is mind-blowing. I'm like, why are our doctors not discussing this almost first? Like, maybe you have endometriosis. Oh, do you have pain with your period? Or you don't? Okay, you don't have endo. Like, that's what doctors some are saying to these women. And I can name 4 or 5 right now that I've said maybe of endo, and they researched it and they do. They've had the surgery to see if they do. But why am I the one bringing that up to that? Why am I like diagnosed, Yeah. It's just, it's crazy to me that, that we're in 2026 now, and endometriosis is just now being talked about. It's crazy because it affects so many women.
And same with PCOS.
Yes. Totally.
I think I had my sister on here. She didn't find out she had PCOS until she was starting to try at 27, and she had it the whole time. But they put her on birth control because her periods were irregular, and they were like, we just need you to be regular, because she was having her period every 2 weeks and then not for a long time. And so that masked it. So then they don't even know. Yeah. And I also had my longtime best friend, Jennifer, on, and she has in Texas has a women's healthcare company, and her big advocacy at Betty's is to say, we should not be waiting until we go to college to go see a gynecologist. This should not be under the purview of a pediatrician. The minute you have a period, you need to be going, or of age to have a period, because she didn't start hers until she was in her 20s. Oh, wow. But the minute, the minute that you should be having you're going through puberty, you should be going to learn about your body, because how many things could be like, I don't want to saved, but like at least understood and treated accordingly. Totally. The sooner you go. So I'm a huge advocate for that. I don't have daughters, so I can't really, I'm not going to take Archer to the gynecologist, but no, totally. But I think it's so important, because what's under the hood is under the hood. And if you get treated with something like birth control to, to make it look good on the outside, that may be masking a problem that is going to crop up later when you are trying to finally start a family. Totally. Totally. I feel like there was something else I was going to say. I know. But I was going to say too. I talked over myself. I was going to say something.
But the more it's talked about, the better. Yeah. And if, we can help other people going through this process, it makes going through it yourself I don't think of it as a negative at all. Yeah. Like the amount of beautiful, amazing, strong women that I've met through going through this process is priceless. I would spend another $90,000 just because of the community that I have now and I see these little babies walking around that, their moms were talking to me 3 years ago, and they had one embryo and one chance. And I was there with them through all the things, and to see the babies now and to watch them grow up, it's like there is nothing cooler than that. There's nothing cooler than that. To see these little IVF babies running around. I know. All of us mamas have this one thing in common that is just, it's huge. And I am so thankful for the community that we have built, through this. So I don't regret it at all.
I think this whole thing has made me a better mom.
Totally.
I really do.
I agree.
I don't wish it upon anybody.
No, no.
But I do think that it has made me maybe being older too. I don't know. Yeah. But I'm very present as a mom, and a lot of stuff, because of so many things. Like, yes, I have therapy, and yes, Marcus and I talk about things all the time. So it's not to say that my anxiety is cured because I went through IVF. No. Yeah. But I do feel like my perspective is so much more aware. I'm aware of what's going on, what deserves my attention, what does not deserve my attention. And I'm just enjoying it. Watching, you were a concept child, and now you are a child. Well, he is chatty Kathy. Oh my God.
The
and
IVF
so
babies.
too. He's like, I have so much to say.
They are it's funny because my kids, I filmed everything too. I filmed so if anybody needs videos of how to do shots or, I've got them all. But, my kids are so aware of how they got here, which is really cool. Which is
so cool.
It's so cool. And when they say, where do babies come from? I'm like, well, you're different than a lot. Yeah. You were frozen. You were literally frozen at one point. And, Lennon, my now 7-year-old, was 3 at the time, but she wanted to be a part of it all. She wanted to help me with the shot, and she wanted to, help me take my meds, and she came to the doctor's appointments with me, and, she watched her little sister come to be, which was so cool. It was so cool.
And I love that about you, for putting them into it, because I talked to someone else, and granted she's in the deep South. So she was like, what do I tell and one of her kids is and one of her kids isn't. And she said, like, how do I tell her? I was like, tell her
Mommy
to call
wanted
me.
you. Yeah. And mommy wanted you so badly. This is what, mommy and daddy went through to get you.
Yeah. I love the idea that Archer is an IVF baby because I think like, it speaks to how intentional this was. And that's not to discredit someone who can naturally get pregnant. I would love if he wasn't like, okay, cool.
Of course.
But that's our journey. And I will tell him, I guess you can say this to Mia because you had a C-section, but I had a C-section too. And after almost the other one, but then his head was too big after 36 hours. I feel like I got both, sort of. At least the experience. But with him, I brought you into this world. I can take you out. Like you came out of like, no, I'm like, actually, I just pulled you out. And then, your dad and I made you. No, actually, that was a lab. Like I can't use any of those.
No, totally.
Tropes that people do.
Yeah. No,
that's okay.
It's amazing. It's so incredible.
Okay. So before I let you go. And if you don't have anything, it's totally fine. But there's a segment I have called Hot Potato. And it's a mixture of whatever. I mean, it can be a cautionary tale, something someone said, unsolicited advice, like the whole just relax thing. It'll work for you.
Isn't that fun?
Love that.
Stop trying and it'll happen.
Right. All these magic things. But do you have anything that, and it's not meant to call someone specifically out. No, it's not meant to embarrass anyone. It's meant to shed light because I think most of the things that we hear, we stomach and we let sit and maybe fester at a time you don't need anything else on your mind. But also a lot of people don't realize how
totally
how they come across and what burden is being actually put on, not lifted from your so-called advice. So do you have anything?
Well, nothing that comes to mind really, but I just remember, I was managing a salon in town where everyone, knew my business. I had been working there for 12 years, so everybody was a part of my wedding, my dating life before that. And then it just came the time when I was supposed to be having babies. And so everybody that walked through the door is like, especially older ladies are like, where's our baby? And I'm like, I'm working on it. But no, I just, people have said some really silly off-color things, but I can't think of anything really at the moment.
It's okay.
But I think, as far as advice that I would give, I just think positivity it was such a big part of my personal journey, and going into the process, kind of ignoring the negative things that people said about it and, just taking it inward and just really trying to stay as positive as possible. And it actually brought Barclay and myself closer to each other. And I mean, he knows more about IVF than a lot of men. And, he'll start talking to like an older dad and they'll be like, IVF. And he's like, oh yeah, us too. Like, it's really sweet to hear him.
I'm having Marcus on the podcast to talk about his side of things, because I think that is something so key and so overlooked. Not if you're going through it, you have your stuff, but like Marcus has done the same, where we'll meet people and we will volunteer how hard it was to get him. Because a lot of times we'll get like the whole, are you going to have another? And I'm like, well, actually, no. And this is why. And last embryo and whatever. And so that introduces the whole concept of IVF. And then, I don't know, it's like probably 30% of the time, someone's like, oh, we're going through that too. And so Marcus will like jump in, whereas he was not as into this whole thing at the beginning, like I said. And definitely, like, I really wanted him to get tested well before all this to see if there was anything on his end that we could get fixed or, adjusted. But now he's an advocate for it. And so I was like, I want you to come on to talk about this stuff too, because I think a lot of women could use a guy talking about it to say, listen to this.
Totally.
And it not be, I feel like the women get a bad rap for that. When we just kind of assume that it's our bodies. Like we walk through life assuming it's probably my fault,
Absolutely.
And maybe it is, maybe it's not. And you don't know until you know. And it's like the same thing as getting a mammogram. Like knowledge is the whole game. I'm getting I'm 40, and so it's early, but I'm getting
do it
a colonoscopy.
Yeah, me too.
This month because I have gut issues, always have, and I'm like, I'm 40 with a 2-year-old. I need to be taking extra care, and not knowing is no reason to go about life. So,
but God forbid the insurance company cover that.
Oh, they're not.
I'm going through that right now. It's like both of my parents have had polyps. You're too young, and I'm like, well, I'm really not, and the statistics are showing, otherwise.
My grandma had colon cancer. And they're saying it has to be a direct
mother, father.
It has to be a mother, father, or sister or brother. Yep. And I'm like,
all
right. She's like, do you still want to do it? And I was like, yeah, I have a 2-year-old.
Even more so. Exactly.
So that's happening.
But I think the male perspective is going to be great. And it's so important to have their support. A lot of these girls these women that I talk to, I'm like, do you have the support of your husband? And many of them do. But recently I was, in a conversation with somebody who didn't have that. And that is heartbreaking to me because you need that. You need that. You need that person
you're gonna be going through,
totally.
You're going to be going through it physically on your own to a degree. Marcus had to get his sperm manually extracted. But, no. He called it his bulging ice pick. Yeah. But most of the physical stuff is going to be on the girl, and that is it. But that means you need someone to lean on, especially when you tell them never to talk to you again.
Yeah, exactly. It's not me saying this.
Well, Molly, you have been wonderful. This is so great, and I'm so glad you agreed to do it. I think
thank you for doing what you're doing. I mean, truly, thank you. I love it. My dad's like, you need to write a book, and I'm like, but what do I have to say? Is it important enough? And I think you have the courage to do this, and I really applaud you. It's really cool.
It feels right because Alex Letty and I were going to write a book and do all these things. And then at the beginning of the year, it was like, wait a minute, this should be a living, breathing conversation so that people can come back on if they're like in the middle of something and they want to talk about it later. And that's a lot of first edition, second edition. And so
I love it.
This just felt right. And it's been amazing how many people have reached out and been like, I'm not ready to talk yet, but I want to, and just pulling it out from the cobwebs because most of us have something to talk about.
Absolutely.
Whether we think it's valid or not. And I like to say to anyone who's listening, who's like, yeah, my story wasn't that bad, or I don't think I have enough to say. Bullshit. You do. It's
weird. Because you kind of feel this. I mean, I have had this feeling of guilt too. Like my story's not,
as bad as someone else's.
As bad as somebody else's, and it's it's a weird feeling. Talking about it with some people who have had horrible, horrible situations and will not be able to be a mother, and that it's like I just want to hold you, and so. But even though I had a great outcome, it's, it was a lot.
And we all have stuff, but I think I said it on a podcast a couple weeks ago, or I didn't say it. It was my guest, Courtney.
Yeah.
But she said, like, comparing your grief, she had 6 miscarriages, 8 pregnancies, 6 of them did not take. And she was like, I don't want anyone to think because they didn't go through this that like their
Right.
pain is invalidated somehow. This is just my journey. And so that's the other thing. It's like coming on this kind of show, talking about it is meant to bring them out, not make people feel like they have to keep theirs small. Whether that's coming on the show or just talking about it to somebody or feeling able to talk about it to somebody. I think that's the point. So I appreciate your willingness and everyone who's been on the show and who wants to come on the show. This is not the kind of show that I say like, subscribe, whatever. Like it's meant to be more of an index. You might not listen to every single episode because you don't have anything to, but maybe you want to hear more about IVF and someone who's gone through it. So this is the episode you're going to choose, or miscarriages are the ones that you're going to choose. And so I just appreciate your willingness so much. And it's good to see you too. I haven't seen you in a while.
I know, you too.
We need to come back up to Aspen a little bit more. We need to come to BOSQ when it opens back up.
I'm also down in Basalt all the time.
Well, come on.
I will.
Thank you so much to everyone who is listening as well. And if you know somebody who's going through something similar, even an iota of what Molly talked about today, please share it. The best part about this podcast is that it can be listened to or watched in private. So you don't have to be ready to talk about your stuff right away. You can hear other people talk about theirs first. And that said, if you have any questions for Molly or myself, please reach out to us. I'll put all of our information in the show notes. She said it here, so I'm not just volunteering her willy-nilly.
Call me.
She will talk to you. She will talk to you. And I can attest, she will talk to you.
I will talk to you.
And so all that is in the show notes. We will be back next week. Excuse me, I can't talk. And we'll talk about something else with another person. And until then, I hope you take care.